Gallimera. Good morning. How are we all today? Well, as you can see, I think we're back to crappy weather again at the moment. It's looking rather grim. As you can probably hear, there is a bit of a breeze blowing. That's looking down towards Amberlockerbie and Kerry. And as you can see, we have got cloud everywhere. Not one little patch of blue sky anywhere. Now, we are forecast for some cold weather, and we're also forecast for some rain. And yeah, it is looking very grim over the back of the house at the moment. Looking over the other side of the house towards Laguna and also towards Kalamaki as the crow flies. Normally you can see the sun poking through around the back here in the mornings, but nothing, just thick cloud at the moment. And I've got a feeling that we're in for some rain at some point in the day. Big shout out to Jan, who's looking in. He lives up the road from us, further up in the hills, and I should think he's actually sat in the cloud at the moment looking out. So as you can see, yeah, not a very nice day today. And if I look towards the direction of Sillavi, oh, again, although on your screen there might be a little bit of blue poking through, but looking at it with the human eye, no, it is definitely very cloudy and very grim. Also, Steve Hinkling tuning in from Stoke-on-Trent. What's it like where you are? Have you still got snow where you are? And if I stand here now, I think I've just felt a little spot of rain, but I'm not 100% sure if that is a spot of rain or maybe a tear in my eye, one of the two. But anyway, and if we look over above in that direction, you can see the cloud moving along. So yeah, it is not a nice day today. Carol Davis is watching. Nice to see you. Howard is looking in as well. There goes Herbert running around. And Steve Hinkling says, Gallimera, I bet it's not hot as cold as here. To be honest, it's not that cold. It might be dull and horrible looking, but it's not actually that cold, actually. So anyway, let's have a look at the news then for the last few hours here on the island. I was up early this morning rewriting stuff about what's been going on. So the news is a kind of bit up to the minute at the moment as well. So let's have a quick look. There I am. Hello. Right, let's have a look. It's the 11th of February. 2021. Just a quick one. You may notice I've shared a couple of memories today. One was Piccolo from 2018. The other was the news when I used to work with Hermes from 2014. And by God, how times have changed since those days. They might be worth a look and also worth a listen as well. And thanks for the comments on those pictures about the children missing out on their not so much on their education, but also the social side of things with the kids doing Piccolo and Carnival and all of that. Again, we're not going to see that this year. And that'll be 2 years now that we've not had a Carnival. So anyway, have a look at those when you get a spare moment. Anyway, it's day 97 by my reckoning and Hillary Rogers' reckoning of the lockdown. Won't be long off 100 days lockdown. And let's have a quick look at the COVID figures for the last 24 hours. Now, got to be good news. It is down a bit. All right. Yesterday we had 1,496 new infections across the country, which is down from 1,526 of the previous day. That brings the grand total of infections since the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic now up to 167,549. Of which, as always, 52% of those are male. Now, there were 4 cases identified into the country at entry points. That is down from the day before where there had been 9 cases. Now, when we start looking at the national figures for infection, according to national stats yesterday, there were 4 new cases on Corfu. Zakynthos had reported 2 new cases, but locally there's been 1, all right? And that is basically a 57-year-old woman yesterday. She tested positive for coronavirus during the afternoon. She had tested positive for corona. She was suffering mild symptoms. Anyway, the woman is being quarantined at home for 14 days, and obviously all her contacts are being tracked as well. Anyway, Zakynthos has had 73 positive cases That means people actually suffered from the virus in mild symptoms and forms since the beginning of the year. And just this month, we've had 37 cases of the virus since the start of February. So there you go. Figures are interesting, shall we say, and that is what's putting us in the red at the moment. Now, as for deaths fortunately are also down as well. We've had 17 new deaths in the last 24 hours. That was down from 20 on the previous reporting period. That brings the total amount of deaths to 6,034. The average age of those people passing away is 79. 95% of those had underlying health problems or were over the age of 70. And just to put that in context, all right, the average daily death rate in 2019 was approximately 329 deaths a day right across Greece. So therefore, you do the maths, you can see how much of a significant effect the daily death rate is having. That still puts us in the red, all right? Anyway, the gender fatalities is, hang on a minute, 3,547 male, 2,487 female. So again, more males to female ratio. Right, now critical cases, unfortunately, they are up in the ICUs across Greece. The other day I reported we had 277. Now today it's 284. So that's a bit of a jump actually. 202 of those are male and 82 of those are female. Again, the average age for these people is about 68 years of age. 86% have got underlying health issues or are over the age of 70. So those are the stats for Greece for today. Now, looking at the sort of COVID news in general, the Strategic Advisory Group on Vaccines at the World Health Organization has confirmed that the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine is safe and effective to give to over 65s, even in regions where the virus mutation is present. So again, that vaccine now has been deemed safe to give to the over 65s, and we'll see if the over 65s start to receive it. At the moment, 60-year-olds can receive it, but we are obviously still waiting for our supplies of it here on Zakynthos. There's not been any word about any more deliveries and any more vaccinations being done at the moment. Anyway, the President of the European Union, Ursula von der Leyen, has recently been criticised for the EU's slow vaccination programme, which is very true. Anyway, she has admitted that the EU was late in ordering the COVID vaccinations on behalf of member states. You might remember member states had already gone and made their own orders. But they said, no, that's our job to do that, not the countries, but our job is the EU. And obviously, a lot of countries are upset about that. Greece was one of those nations in that position where basically they were being told they couldn't order anything because the EU had the priority to go ahead and do that. And what did they do? They went and messed it up big style. And then they tried to take the vaccine from the United Kingdom at the same time as a bit of more of a Brexit jab, more than an actual let's get people sorted jab. Anyway, she says we are still not where we want to be. I'm surprised you still have a job, lady. That's the first thing. And she also acknowledged that the EU has been overconfident about delivery targets being met amid delays from producers. Yeah, overconfident is basically your way of saying, well, it wasn't my fault, but it was your fault at the end of the day, madam. Countries should have been allowed to make their own independent orders as they saw fit. Why does the EU now all of a sudden want to jump in and start dictating the health of the European citizen in regards to the virus? Let countries do some stuff for themselves without you thinking that you have got the God Almighty right to roll right across and take power away from people who know what they're doing, who are on the ground, who know their population, they know what their needs are, for you just to muscle in and I don't see you giving out much in the way of help in the way of financial aid in some respects for what's been going on with the crisis as well. So the EU at the moment, I have got nothing but I don't even want to go there. Anyway, she also acknowledged that the EU has been overconfident about the delivery targets being met amid the delays from producers. Anyway, data shows that the UK is 19.2 vaccine doses have been administered per 100 people. So the UK at the moment is doing really well. And to be honest, I've heard a lot of praise about what's been going on with the way the EU has handled the whole, the way that the United Kingdom has handled the situation at the moment with the vaccinations. Anyway, the UK has managed to do 19.2 out of every 100 people with the vaccine, compared to only 3.9 in the EU at the moment. So that is a very, very low figure in the overall realm of things. Anyway, yesterday I was telling you about what's happening in Attica, and I don't normally like to keep dwelling on Attica at the moment. I normally try to keep everything within within Zakynthos, and occasionally looking out as well. But I think it's important that we do talk about Attica at the moment and what's going on there. For those people who are not quite sure what you mean by Attica, it is we're talking about the Athens greater area, a bit like the London greater area. Attica is kind of like the same, all right? Anyway, further details regarding the hard lockdown for the Attica region, they were revealed yesterday, and today they actually come into force, all right? Anyway, supermarkets, they will be allowed to be open in the Attica area from Monday through to Friday, and they're allowed to open from 7 o'clock in the evening until 8 o'clock at night. Unlike us, we're opening at 7, and we have to be closed by 5 o'clock in the evening. And we were talking about this morning, Jane and I. Even though the Attica is going into a stricter lockdown in the same realm as they're in a red zone, our lockdown here in Zakynthos is even more stricter. And to be honest, right, yes, we have had a spike of infection, but nothing in the region of what Athens has had. So I think because they're looked upon as the capital city, their curfew is actually starting a little bit later than ours, which starts at 6 o'clock here. It's starting at 9 o'clock over there in Attica. Anyway, on Saturday, shops are allowed to be open from 7 o'clock in the evening until 5 o'clock in the evening, even though that they shut their curfew at 9 o'clock. All right. Pharmacies, petrol stations, pet shop, laundries, telecommunication company, your phone shops basically, and opticians will only be by appointment. So that'll be interesting. You'll have to pay your phone bill by appointment. That'll be seeing how. In other words, they're encouraging you to do it online, which we normally would have done. But last month we had a heck of a trouble trying to pay online to Cosmote for our internet. So in the end, you had to go and see them and pay face to face. Anyway, this is interesting as well. Hairdressers, beauty and personal hygiene services and bookstores will remain closed. Now here at the moment, in our lockdown, they are allowed to be open, but by appointment only. But over in Athens, they are shut, all right? Anyway, as previously stated, restaurants will be open only for delivery and takeaway services. We have the same here. The night curfew, again, just to reinforce it, is from 9 o'clock till 5 o'clock up in the Attica area, where ours is from 6 o'clock up until 5 o'clock. However, interestingly, Attica's curfew at weekends is from 6 o'clock to 5 o'clock, but only at the weekends, all right? So the virus doesn't go out at night at the weekends. Maybe it takes a bit of time off. It probably has to. It's pretty tired at what it's doing. Anyway, again, citizens will only be allowed to leave their home for specific reasons, and they also have to notify using the old SMX text message 13033, and make sure that when they book out, they get a reply from the police or civil protection, and then they're allowed to leave their home. Now, we were told it was a 2-hour time limit to do whatever you had to do or rebook out again. But at the moment, nothing's been said about that on that. Also, interestingly as well, taxis up in the Attica area will only be allowed to carry 2 passengers, and public transport is reduced to 65% of capacity, and ferries also will only be allowed 50% of their capacity. So if you're going from Piraeus somewhere, only 50% of people will be allowed on the ferries. Now, it's quite interesting. I was paying my car insurance the other day down in town, and a lot of offices here are working basically from 9 o'clock in the morning till maybe 4 or sometimes 5 o'clock in the evening. Now, I actually think that is a fantastic working time for people to have here in Greece. When I used to live in Cyprus, Cyprus used to have summer hours and it had winter hours. And the winter hours were basically 9 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock at night. Everything shuts and closes. Summertime, about 8 o'clock in the morning till 2, close, reopen again at 5, work through till 9. Which, to be honest, if you're an employee, is not a great way of working. And one thing I've been pleasantly surprised is that because this kind of extra time has been enforced upon people in the offices, they're actually quite liking it, because what it means, they're only doing one journey a day to get to work. They come over, they do their work, they go home. They're not having then to go back again later in the evening to go back to work again. And a lot of them are saying they're actually feeling their quality of life, despite everything that's going on, is actually better for that. So maybe this might be a way that Greece might start rethinking about summer and winter working hours. And also, the good thing about the knock-on of that is it means that pollution and smog gets cut down, because you've only got 2 rush hours, one going, one coming back, instead of 4 rush hours a day that you would have in the major cities of what do you call it? Yeah, as Les Paul says, absolute craziness, and I agree with you. Why do they have to do that? So anyway, let's move on now. Bit of Zakynthos news for you now. The latest period of rapid sampling and testing on employees in the hospital, that has been concluded at the moment because of employees in the hospital suffering from coronavirus or being in contact with coronavirus patients. They've been doing regular testing of the staff there. Their last testing period, all of the staff have been found to be negative, that they tested. Workers and staff in the ICUs and the surgery have undergone molecular testings because they've been in close contact with people that have had the virus, and so far all of their contacts they have been proving negative. Now, on Monday, the president of the Workers' Association, Petros Goulamos, stressed that the hospital remains safe and it is also ready to serve our fellow citizens for any emergency, despite the fact that due to the current health situation, the regular surgeries and clinics have restrictions placed upon them, and accompanying patients are tested for the virus when they go to the hospital. And as of Monday morning, a total of 5 health workers had been tested positive, and more specifically, 1 radiologist, 4 nurses, while 4 other workers were quarantined as they had cases in their work area, although they themselves were actually negative. So the hospital is actually doing a lot just to stay one step ahead of the virus. Mr. Goulamos said that our hospital is operating and we have taken all the planned measures from the first moment. As soon as our island turned red, the regular clinics were closed and restrictions were placed on the attendance, emphasising the ICU of the hospital is operating normally. He said there is 1 citizen being treated for coronavirus. He's not incubated, while 5 other people are being treated at the COVID clinic. And the COVID clinic is basically just a separate ward where people who have got coronavirus can be placed in there for observation before deciding whether they need to be sent home for self-quarantine, or they may have to go to a stage higher and go into one of the special beds that the island has for people to be incubated here on the island. But at the moment, nobody is incubated at the moment, which is a good sign. All right. Anyway, the president of the Workers' Association noted that performing molecular tests in our hospital is a very important process, as this service is not provided in other hospitals. Now that's interesting. While he stressed that all this time his colleagues are responsible for molecular tests and are working very intensely to carry out tests on such a large volume. So there you go. Hats off to the people at the hospital who are doing their utmost to try and do their job with the meagre resources that they have had at hand at times. All right. Another story. Again, this is an Athens-based story and a Thessaloniki-based story, but I'm not sure if we may have done the same here in Zakynthos. I've not seen anybody report this, but anyway, it might be an idea for some of the people involved in this to maybe take a little bit of an inspiration from what's going on, because yesterday, in symbolic action, owners of restaurants, cafes, and bars handed their keys over to the state in Athens and Thessaloniki and other Greek cities as a protest to the extended shutdown of their businesses due to the government's pandemic measures. Now, the extended lockdown threatens the survival of the hospitality business. According to a recent survey carried out by the Pan-Hellenic Federation of Catering Companies, 4 in 10 are about to close permanently. All right. At Zakynthos Square in downtown Athens, protesters set up a box where bankrupt business owners from the catering sector put their keys in an envelope and threw them into a big pot. And those envelopes were addressed personally to the Prime Minister of Greece, Mr. Mitsotakis, and they were later delivered yesterday evening to the Prime Minister's office. All right. Anyway, in Thessaloniki, the country's second largest city, some 300 owners threw their keys again into a big pot, together with their best regards to the Prime Minister's office. Anyway, since November, the hospitality sector has allowed only to operate a delivery or takeaway service. And for many restaurants and bars, the solution has not been a viable one. And the sector was only allowed to open for 3 to 4 months in the summer of 2020. You might remember all the restrictions that were placed upon people at that time. So again, they've lost Christmas, they lost the New Year, they're also probably going to lose Easter as well, which also can be a very, very good time for businesses and restaurants and bars and that to make some good money before the beginning of the season. So again, we'll keep an eye on that, because again, a lot of people feel that the bars and restaurants should be able to open, even with restrictions in place. People are fed up basically in their houses. People want to get out and about, but at the moment, with the lockdown, with the curfew, especially here, it isn't happening at the moment, and we're going to wait and see when it will happen as well. And finally, a bit of good news, all right, a bit of happy news. 14 Greek airports have been redeveloped by Fraport in Greece, providing greater services, greater comfort and more amenities to Greek and international travellers, and that was announced on Wednesday. Fraport, you might remember, they've been doing a lot of work here on the airport here on Zakynthos. They started their, I can't believe they started their redevelopment programme back in 2017. That seems like such a long time ago at the moment. With the start-up of a concession they initially started managing 11 airports, and they've now expanded into 14 airports across Greece, including the regional airports. Now, the company says it has concluded the last of the construction works for the 14 airports well ahead of its April 2021 contractual deadline. And I think the reason is because no one was in the airports, or hardly anybody was in the airports. And so they've been able just to get on with the work without any interruptions, without anybody in the way. And the interesting thing is, in construction, you get fined if you go over your date for construction being done. You have to pay penalties to who you're doing the job for. But if you finish early, do you get a bonus? My brother told me that has stopped years ago, but the fine still goes on if you're late delivering. But anyway, I do know they've done a fantastic job at our airport down in Kalamaki. Anyway, at the Zakynthos airport, in fact, they increased the amount of check-ins by 35%. To 150%, believe it or not. More check-ins available to take more flights. More aircraft can land on the pan. In the past, we could only get, I think, 6 aircraft down in one go. Now we can get 10 aircraft down in one go, all serviced and ready for people arriving. So that's a positive as well. And also as well, Kefalonia's had a brand new airport built over there, which looks very impressive from the pictures I've seen of it. So Fraport's innovation has cost them 440 million euros. And don't forget, Fraport has to pay a bounty to everybody who passes through the airport. They pay a €1 to the Greek government for going into the airport, and when they fly out, they pay another €1 to the government to fly out of the airport. So the government actually picks up a nice healthy bonus. Plus, as well, the government still owns the infrastructure, but Fraport has obviously bought in on a contract for about 30 years, maybe 20, 30 years, to be able to run those airports, which all used to be in the control of the government and now is in private enterprise. And I've got to be honest, when you go to our airport, it's like a mini Gatwick. That's the best way to describe it. And I think when I remember what the airport was like before, even though we were one of the very lucky islands because we already had a reasonably decent airport already constructed, all they had to do was tweak it. And they actually found, believe it or not, 45% more operational space inside the airport as well to do more with it, which I think has been really, really good. So anyway, that's the positive. Let's have a quick look, see who's tuning in. The weather now is starting to get a bit grim at the moment. I've already said good morning to Jan. He probably wants to see how the chickens are. The chickens were sat by my lap, actually, while I was doing the broadcast, but they've disappeared now because you're too busy blagging, Ginge, and not feeding us. Anyway, so a big shout out to Jan, also to Lindsay Lamb as well. Nice to have you looking in as well. Steve Hinkling there in Stoke-on-Trent. Carol Davis is looking in. Steve Hinkling says, Galimera. I bet it's not as cold as it is here. Yeah, we've had that one. Also, Amanda Gregory's looking in up the road as well. Nice to see you. Maureen Levington, sorry about I didn't put your little bit in my show yesterday. I didn't have a chance to do that. I was so busy. I'll talk about that in just a little while, okay? Anyway, Jerry Coyle is tuning in. Raffridge, buddy, nice to see you there as well. He says it's minus 6.5 in Berry Hill, Mansfield. Oh, that sounds a bit too cold for me. Anyway, Steve Hinkling says no snow, but very frosty. Amanda Gregory, oh great, she's given me a weather forecast for today. Electric Amanda, who we'll call her. Morning, Ginge. Rain today, possible thundery showers. Big change from yesterday. Yeah, you can say that again. You better stay inside because you might not be lucky a second time with the lightning strike, all right? Christy Beattie is watching as well. Janley is watching. Nick Haviland is also watching from over near Luton. Nice to see you checking in. Barry is also looking in as well. Nice to see you. And happy birthday for yesterday, Barry. He's not said how old he is, but happy birthday anyway. Julia Halloran is watching as well. Cristoponio, my old mate Cristoponio, from ex Four Tops for a while. Yeah, nice to have you looking in, fella. Nice to see you looking good. But Julie Halloran is also from a bitterly cold Manchester. Nice to see you, Julie. Alex Tipas is also looking in as well. Nice to see you tuning in there. Alex, how's things with you? And Mark, who is also watching as well. Gab Kitchen is watching. Tim Crystal says, good morning, buddy, from a -5 Oxford. Oh, it's getting colder the more we talk to people from the UK. Anyway, does the virus like the cold? I don't think it does. So you never know. You might get yourselves moved out of lockdown where you are with this going on, with this cold weather. Anyway, Robbie Robinson is watching as well. Andrew the Fridge Watkins is watching. It must be cold in Wales. It's got to be. Andrew Patrick Venables is also watching as well. Leah Bell is watching. Nice to see you there, Leah. Also, Les Paul Porter from Florida. It must be sunny there in Florida at the moment because this would be cruising time. I remember hanging about in, Fort Lauderdale and also in Miami round about this time of year. The cruise ships would be hustling and bustling in and out, off to the Bahamas, off to the Caribbean. I don't know what the weather's like there at the moment. And all the snow gooses, as they call them, they're the people from New York and the cold places go down to Florida for the what is a winter and a summer, and then go back. You got to remember, Florida has a kind of reverse season because we then get to hurricane season round about May through to September, which would be our summer, is their hurricane season. So they don't get many people going there at that time because of the weather. But anyway, nice to have you looking in, Paul, as well. Anyway, Julia Halloran says, England should take a leaf out of your book and bring that curfew in here. Yeah, that could be a good thing for England, but I've got to be honest, when I was there last time, I'd never seen London so empty. But that was a while ago. People not following the rules. It'd be interesting to see if they could follow those rules at the moment. But you've got to remember, the rate of infection is dropping off. And this is the thing, the rates of infection here are dropping off. But we're still carrying on with what we're doing, despite, yes, we've had a blip here, and we will call it a blip. The powers that be still want to crack on with this lockdown. And for people running businesses and trying to get an economy to thrive, this is probably more unhealthy than what people actually think it is. Because at the end of the day, we haven't had the lovely furlough extras of 80% wages while lockdown and everything else. People are paying out of their own pockets. People are using their savings to live. And we haven't had any spectacular bailout at all from the government in regards to the ordinary man in the street. Jane, unfortunately, lost her ECA this year. Never got anything, despite doing the hours that she worked and everything else, doing everything that was asked of her. Let down really badly, not only by the government, but by her former employees as well. So again, it's a mixed bag, but I think a lot of people here want to see things going back to normal, shops turning and burning, making money, because that is better for mental health. That is also better for physical health, better for the children with their education. You cannot completely close a society down. Even during the plague of the 1600s, England didn't shut down and stop doing what it had to do. Yes, thousands of people did die, but unfortunately in that era we didn't have the medicine, we didn't have the technology we have now to be able to take care of those people. And in some ways, when you look at the game plan of 1660 during the Great Plague, we were following the same rules now in 2021. So again, it's a kind of controversial issue. If you're at home in the counties, in your lovely house, and you're on 80% of your wage, oh, lockdown must be so much fun. We've learnt to make dough bread. We've learnt to crochet. We've got online streaming. Great for those people, but there's a lot of people who are not that lucky. They've lost their jobs. They don't know whether they're going back to a job. They're stuck at the top of high-rise buildings, 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day, with children running around their feet who should be at school, who should be getting education. Then there's the problems of trying to get them online to get an education. And then there's cases where people are not even allowed on their veranda because they're too socially close to the next door neighbours to even sit on their veranda. So I think it's a mixed blessing of your personal circumstances as to whether curfew is good for you or whether curfew isn't. And I think for a majority of people, curfews at the moment are not good for mental health, business, economies that have to thrive, because we're going backwards. We're not going forwards with this. Anyway, that's the end of me preaching now before Les Paul says you're preaching, Ginge. Anyway, Gary Eaton's watching as well. Nice to see you. Maria Hallberg from Sweden is watching as well. Nice to see you as well, looking in, my darling. Les Paul Porter says, what is beginning as a few shots in the arm will become more than people ever signed up for. I cannot be convinced that this isn't a precursor to the coming mark of the beast. I've got to be honest, there is this talk of a fourth industrial revolution going on, and it is a revolution by stealth, the way that you shop online with Amazon. And this is the thing that worries me about Greece. Greece now, desperate for money, desperate for investment, is allowing in players who are as dubious as hell. I'm sorry, but all this Amazon coming to Greece is all a facade. It isn't going to be good for the country in the long term. Might be good for a few people at the top of the tree. For the person at the bottom, the ordinary man in the street, no, I don't believe Amazon is great. And also, when you look at the likes of Bill Gates and you look at Elon Musk and people like that, they are the ones that are benefiting by what is going on. We are not. If anything, it's us that's paying in the end of the day in everything. All right. So we shall look at what goes on. Anyway, Julie Halloran says, are the schools working there? The schools to a degree are. Some of the primary schools have closed here. And the reason for that is because they've had students there, 10-year-olds, who have tested positive for the coronavirus, but they've only had mild symptoms. They've been sent home to home quarantine. They've disinfected some of those schools and they've closed parts of those schools. So it's a mixture. However, secondary school children, they are still learning online. And also the high school, as in the high school, like your sixth form and pieces like the lyceums, as they call it, they're all still learning online. They should have gone back, but they didn't. They're still learning online. And also the university students, well, they've just been doing everything online at the moment as well. And so basically, only the primary school kids at certain schools are still at school, and school kids are not at school. They're distance learning, and the lyceums, they're distance learning as well. So at the moment, it's a mixture. But in general, yes and no, all right, if that makes it clear for you. Just depends on the age of the children. But thanks for that question. And also, Les Paul is saying, don't for all the junk around the vaccine, too much deception is involved. To be honest, I'm now eligible to go and make an appointment to have the vaccine. And I've said, no, I'm going to wait. I'm also interested about this new fantastic sniffing vaccine that the Israelis are now giving to Greece, and I'll be interested to see what comes out of that. Yes, it's been given to Greece on the understanding trials are to be conducted and data about that is to be fed back to the pharmaceutical company producing it. But again, it smacks of a vaccine being used for our friends and not for our neighbours, shall we say. But we shall wait and see how that goes on as well. Les Paul says, Ron, real news outside the US from a friend in Greece. So it's obviously talking to somebody. I've been shared to somebody else over there in what do you call it? Another one, good news before they shut down international travel to those without digital vaccine records. We have got digital vaccine records here at the moment. Once you get vaccinated, your name is taken at the moment. But at the moment, you've got to remember, Greece is one of the nations who's been pushing for this vaccine passport at the moment, which again smacks of control. They are saying in one hand, we're not going to force it on you. You don't have to have it. But then the holiday companies will say, oh, if you want to get on my EasyJet flight, if you want to get on my Ryanair flight, if you want to go with Thompson, if you want to go with whatever, you're going to have a vaccination. So it's vaccination by stealth. And what somebody's actually called vaccine apartheid as well, is if you don't have the pass, you ain't coming, all right? So, again, we shall work out what goes on. Anyway, Barry Leatherdale says, thank you for my birthday wishes yesterday, mate. It was a pleasure, fella. I don't know anything about Denmark shutting down social media recently, but I will have a look, all right? I don't know anything about that at all, but I will have a look at that. Cheers for that one. Andrew the Fridge Watkins says, I remember the old airport with one luggage belt, no aircon, and 3 hours waiting for your cases. Yes, I remember that airport. It was a rite of passage coming to Zakynthos back in the day. When I first come here in 2005, I could not believe what the airport was like. It was like, not saying it was a hut at the end of a runway, but it wasn't far off. In fact, when I was in the Air Force, we used to have Attica has its own air terminal, and so does RAF Bryce Norton. When I looked at RAF Bryce Norton's The Gateway, that was what they used to call the like little hotel that's set there for all servicemen to go when they fly out to wherever they have to go. And I looked at that, and I looked at the terminal. Can I just say that the Zakynthos airport was nowhere near as good as any of those locations, but it was in some ways it was what made Zakynthos special. It was a rite of passage, standing out in the sun in lines squillily, and people actually occasionally would get on the wrong flight because they stood in the wrong queue, but those days have gone now. But I remember those days with great affection of the old air terminal. Thanks for that, Andrew. You certainly brought back some memories of the old airport. Jan is saying, can you show us the chickens? I'll show you the chickens, Jan. Here we go. Jan loves chickens. He's got a load himself. There you go. There's the chickens. Let me show. Oh, look. I've got one here. This is my little friendly girl. Come here, friendly girl. Come on. But people want to see you being fed. And I'm going into our box now. Now, here we go. Come on. Come on. You coming over? Come on. There we go. There we go. See, look, there we go. Hand fed, hand reared. That's what they say. Somebody's probably going to ask, do you ever eat any of them? No, we don't. And I think the reason is the landlord thinks we love them so much he'd feel really guilty bringing us chicken. Or either that, he's stockpiling the chicken because we don't know what's happening. Right, I'll tell you what, I'm going to have to go because I've been burbling on. Once again, thank you to all those people who've been sending little messages. Also, as well, my show is up online from yesterday. Requesting inspiration. Once again, if you want to put any requests in for Friday's show, because I'm going to do like a St. Valentine's special on Friday, and I'm gonna do that. So once again, I will see you. You take care. Stay safe. I'll keep my ear to the ground about what's been going on in Greece as well as in Zakynthos. And again, thank you for your input. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you for your support as well. And I will see you tomorrow. You take care and have a lovely day. All right. And goodbye from the lovely ladies. Yes, they are lovely girls, aren't they? And now we're prisoners in our house from the chickens. Oh, no, come on, stop fighting, girls. There's no need to fight. Oh, you want some more? Oh, let's get some more, shall we? Oh, feed the chickens, tuppence a bag, tuppence. There you go, guys. From a very miserable day, I will see you soon. Anyway, at least the chickens are a ray of light. Catch you later. Ta-ra. Bye.